Adam Rittenberg of ESPN.com. He's got some great pieces up, parsing out the UCLA situation, Deshaun Foster, the new coach, grading hires. He went through that. Oregon State obviously included in that with Jonathan Smith leaving, and we wanted to pick his brain on just the nature of the beast that is college football now. He's on Twitter at Rittenberg ESPN. Adam, good morning. Thanks for hopping on with us. We always appreciate the time. How is navigating the waters of college football, transfer portal, coaching moves, expanded playoff, future models of playoff, new inked deal with the media rights for the playoff? How is all of this how has it changed your life a little bit, the way it's, as a business, the sport has grown?
Right. Good morning, guys. Yeah, it's obviously there's not much of an off season anymore. There's a lot more interest in the sport year round. There were periods of the year when I started out where college football was really off the radar, and I don't think it is certainly as much for the diehards, but even the casual fans. You mentioned the playoff and where that lands. Looks like it's going to be a 5-7 model. The media rights deal obviously is something that will get some attention. And then the coaching moves. This has been maybe the longest coaching carousel that I can remember. 30 jobs total, and now it's seemingly over with Deshaun Foster, but we'll see. You never know. And obviously the portal has changed it a lot. So thankfully we have a big staff, and I don't have to do it all, but it is definitely a different type of February than when I first started here.
I went through a lot of the grading of the coaching hires that you put together, and I went through your grade of Trent Bray here. You said I should have viewed Bray as a strong candidate to replace Smith right away, given Bray's deep roots with the program, his ability to maintain continuity, and his popularity with Oregon State fans. He'll be a first-time head coach at a very delicate time in program's history. Kind of a pseudo Mountain West schedule for them this year. They're now in the Pac-2 with Washington State, given everything that happened to that conference. Just kind of elaborate on giving a B-plus grade to Trent Bray, a very unknown, obviously, as a first-time head coach, and what you highlight there, a very delicate time for this program's position with conference and future kind of questioning.
Yeah, I think a lot of the hires fell under this umbrella in a sense that it really was about the context. And nothing against others who do coaching grades. I see some of the grades, and I'm like, are you really putting this into this situation, given what's going on at this time with this program? So, normally, I don't know if I would have given a B+ for that grade. But, given the fact that Oregon State is, it was a time where the portal was opening and key players were leaving, and I just felt like they needed to get this thing stabilized. I think he's a guy that has the chance to do that, given how he's regarded and obviously his devotion to the program. So, how he'll be as a head coach is certainly a mystery. Similar to Deshaun Foster at UCLA, taking over in mid-February is a very unusual time to be elevated into a head coaching position for the first time. But I think that it was certainly someone who resonated with the fans and the players, and that's not the only reason you make a hire. But I think given where Oregon State is headed, they needed some sense of continuity and stability rather than kind of ripping it up and starting over again. I think that would have been a hard thing to have happen to the program after everything that did happen, in the season, rising as high as they did, losing those last two games, how they did, obviously Jonathan Smith's departure, and then losing guys into the portal. That would have been a very hard thing to do a full reset on.
Adam Rittenberg, ESPN, college football national reporter, our guest here. He's got some great articles at ESPN.com. Go to their college football section. You'll see a bunch of them. He does great work. He's a good friend of the show, longtime friend of the show. Obviously, for Kirk Schultz, Washington State and Oregon State, the 5+7 model is best for them. They're going to fight like hell. You kind of mentioned it there. Is it the best model for the sport? Do you think they should just agree to this and be done with this conversation for a little bit?
Well, I think it's important to have some resolution. It's just funny. I was thinking back to the always extended deadlines to get the model in place. And we kept hearing, well, if they don't decide by this meeting, there's no chance that they're going to have it ready in time. And then lo and behold, they have it ready in time. So, again, I scoff a little bit about, well, we got to get this thing done. But I do think that there's urgency here. And certainly it makes sense for those two schools. But my whole thing with the playoff model is just inclusivity. That was the problem with the 14 playoff. It wasn't a bad system in determining the best team in the country, but it was a bad system in excluding leagues and in some cases entire regions of the country. So, I get it. The Big Ten and the SEC want to fill most of the spots, and they have teams that are capable of doing that. But I think this thing needs to at least have pathways for others in other conferences, including obviously Washington State and Oregon State, given their unique situation.
Adam, do you think everybody that's not an SEC or Big Ten fan should be nervous by them teaming up together and kind of excluding the Big 12, the ACC? I know the Pac-2 is fighting for, to just stay in this conversation and for a seat at the table. Do you think the rest of the college football world should be nervous by them? Because they've had, I think it was Tony Petitti that said he kind of likes the 16-team playoff. Obviously, he wants that, and the SEC would want that for more of their teams to be in it. Should the world of college football be nervous that those two are exclusively working together? Or what is your just read on the partnership that they've kind of created with this?
Yeah, it's definitely notable. I'm actually going to visit with Tony this morning, so I'll have a better answer for you later. But he definitely and Greg Sankey, the fact that they are working together is notable because for years, these two conferences were rivals, even though there was times where they had strong working relationships. I don't think that was the case as much with Greg Sankey and Kevin Warren. They were just very different. As Kevin said, they saw the world differently. And I think these two commissioners, Sankey and Petitti, are more aligned. There's certainly the backdrop and the drumbeat that, this sport is eventually going to go to a super league-like model where, there'll be a group of 35, 40, 25, 60, anywhere in that range. And, these two leagues are obviously going to be populating whatever that is more than any other. So I think that would be the long-term concern. I think Brett Yormark said this the other day, though, as the Big 12 commissioner, as long as the communication lines are open as much as possible in a sport where oftentimes people get surprised by big news, then I think it's okay for those leagues. But I would be certainly a little concerned because, again, these two have gone from rivals to at least having this partnership and talking about some of the bigger issues in the sport.
Adam Rittenberg, ESPN, is our guest here on his way to go talk to the Big Ten Commissioner, Tony Petitti. So I can't wait to see what the information you're going to provide us on Twitter and ESPN.com or whatever you end up getting out of that sit down with him. If I had to ask you, you did new coaching hire grades. Washington's obviously on this. Alabama's obviously on this. Which coach will be lasting longer at their new job, Kalen DeBoer or Jed Fish?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, history would say Kalen DeBoer. Jed Fish, has been a job hopper, or maybe by necessity has moved around a heck of a lot in his career as an assistant. And then now, with his first move coming just 3 years at Arizona, where he did a great job in the end, but then moved to Washington. Again, I think Kalen's in it for the long haul if they'll have him. It's obviously going to be a very difficult situation to replace Nick Saban. The expectations are out of the charts even right away. And, if they miss the 14 playoff a couple of times, then he could be in trouble. But, I think that's a little bit more of a destination job for Kalen DeBoer than Washington is for Jed Fish. Now, maybe Jed will surprise us, and that'll be a place he stays for, 7, 8, 10 years. But his history and track record says that he'll be moving on relatively soon. And, one job that people are already talking about, and I don't think it would happen this quick, is Florida. That's where Jed Fish is from, that's where he went to college, has roots in that state, worked there as an NFL assistant. I think he was at Miami at one point. So, there's a good chance that job comes open in the next couple of years. What does Jed Fish do at that point?
We talked to your colleague about a half hour ago or so, Bill Conley. His SP Plus numbers have come out for 2024. And I understand I'm asking you this on Valentine's Day. We have a lot of football practices to get through to even get to a season. If teams are healthy, let's just give that caveat. Who do you like better in the Big Ten to win it? Do you like Michigan, Ohio State, or Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and it's weird to say this because they just won the national championship, but Michigan would be a third in that order, and maybe a distant third, just because of all the transition that they've gone through, both with their roster and their coaching staff. I have no idea who's going to be the quarterback in Michigan. I know that Dylan Gabriel is going to be the quarterback at Oregon, and that Will Howard most likely will be the quarterback at Ohio State, although they have a very crowded and talented quarterback room that Chip Kelly is now overseeing along with Ryan Day. So I think, to me, it's between Ohio State and Oregon, and both teams have been really aggressive in the NIL space and the transfer portal and building up their rosters to compete for a championship. You'll probably give Ohio State a little bit of an edge just because they've been in the Big Ten. They know what it's like to go through it in this conference. As history shows, it's hard to move conferences and have success right away. But that's certainly the goal for Dan Lanning and that staff at Oregon, with the team that they have coming back. And they have a lot of motivation, having lost the key games that have kept them out of the playoff and out of the Pac-12 championship. So I think for both teams, it would be a massive disappointment to miss the playoff. Who's going to win the Big Ten? It could come down to them playing one another, which would certainly be a must-see game around the college football map.
Adam, I'll get you out of here, man, because I know you're super busy today, and we do greatly appreciate the time. I'll get you out of here with this. This is just your thought. You've been covering college football for a long time. We are living in the evolution. I know it's really weird because it's growing and they're getting more viewers every year. It's the second biggest sport in America. It just is. They get the second most eyeballs, just only to the NFL. Do you like where the sport is right now personally? Just your thoughts, not what people have told you, just your opinion covering the sport. Do you like where the sport is?
Well, I certainly like that the popularity continues to go up. That's a good thing for someone working on it. But I would say that the personnel situation is sort of untenable. I don't think that you can go forward year after year having this extended period of personnel movement. I'm not against personnel movement. I'm not against players having the right to take control of their futures. I do think that there would be benefits, certainly for the teams and maybe for the players, to go to a full-blown employment model where you have contracts. I think it would allow the players a sense of security. It would certainly allow the coaches an idea of what their teams are going to look like year to year. But if you're going to keep it the way it is, you can't. I don't think you can have a system, honestly, where you're going until June 1st or later until you know what your team looks like. That just doesn't exist in any other sport with such a short lead up to the season. In college basketball, because of when it ends, you have a lot of your movement that takes place after the academic year. That's not the case in college football. You need to have your team ready to go, I think, earlier than June 1st. Ideally, by spring. You need to know what you have. And I think right now it's very, very difficult because there's just so much movement and uncertainty. I mean, Michigan, I don't know who's going to be their quarterback. You could say that for a few teams because there's going to be more movement in the spring portal.
Good stuff. Adam Rittenberg, ESPN, ESPN.com, on his way to go talk to the Big Ten commissioner as this sport continues to, the landscape of it, shift and move around. We'll see what happens. 5+7 model seems like that's the way they're going with the expanded playoff. ESPN, his company, inking the new media rights deal for the playoff. Find Adam Rittenberg on Twitter and ESPN.com. Adam, thanks so much for the time, man. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day and the conversation with Tony Petitti.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, there we go. Great stuff from our good friend Adam Rittenberg of ESPN.com on just where the sport of college football is in general.